All right, welcome back. Excited to be here with Coach Mike. I'm looking forward to tonight. I know we've had some amazing guests, Coach, but tonight it's you and I. We had a little illness situation.
These things
Hey,
happen, Jeff. It's like life.
exactly
We go to
right.
a tournament and our partner says, I can't make it. And someone says, hey, I'm not playing. Can I play? And then you get to play with somebody. It's your first blind date, like I had a couple of weeks ago in Davie. Never met the guy. Got very lucky, met a wonderful gentleman, had a great day.
And your partner had to leave, right?
He had to leave. We made it to the, I don't know, quarters or semis, whatever. We were doing well. And he had a flight, but the tournament was behind schedule, maybe a couple hours. And he had a flight, had to leave. So what happened was, short story, the team that we just beat moved up. And I'm leaving into the parking lot. This happens to people all the time. Mike, can you still play? No, my partner left. Yeah, but my partner left too.
Oh, gee.
So then we go back to the desk, true story. And the tournament director says, we can get you guys in. It's okay if you two play, but it's going to be at least an hour and a half waiting. He goes, Mike, I got to pick up my wife in an hour and a half. So that was the end of the match for us.
Oh, wow.
These things happen.
Hey, Mike, let's kick this show off with a little video from you at the U.S. Open.
Okay, surprise, surprise.
So,
Hopefully, this is one of my better days. Let's go. Come on, bring it.
so you don't know what this is? This
I have
clip
no
is.
clue. No.
So what we're going to do at the end, you can tell us a little bit about it.
Sure, fair enough. Another blind date. Hanging in there with top players in the country. Dave going for his, oh, look at that. He saves it. I get to it. Dave gets to it. This is a crazy play. I make a bad shot. He makes a good shot. We're getting back up to the net. Phenomenal at the net. Look at that. We get lucky. Yes. Dave hits one into the net. And they're clapping for us, too. It's so much fun, Jeff. I don't know if you have an opportunity yet, but you live there and you can play on that court every day. It's just different during the tournament while it's happening. And, the cameras are rolling and it gets into your head a little bit, depending who you are. If you've never done it before, it can be a little bit overwhelming.
I'm sure.
As to it is, the person across the net is one of the most decorated players at the U.S. Open. He happens to be a real nice fella, too.
That's great. Well, that clip made me think of one of the questions I was going to ask you tonight.
Sure.
Some of the advanced players, as they move up, it might be usually mixed. They go to a stacking strategy.
Sure.
So why don't you explain a little bit about what stacking is, the advantage? Because if you look at Weinbach and Mills, they were stacking. Usually you don't see that in men's, right? It's more mixed.
And in most cases, Jeff, not for everybody, because other people have reasons why they stack, is they want to keep that stronger person on that forehand side. What also happens is I find you and I are playing against each other, and I find you as a better target for me. Maybe I can work your game a little bit more than maybe my partner, and you're going to keep me across from you at all times. So the stacking is one way to do it, and then there's signals. And for the people that are just watching for the first time, it's a small little signal that goes behind your back, letting that person know as soon as you return the ball, we're going to switch sides. And you see that in lots of tournaments where they want to keep a certain person on the certain side of the court. And that's primarily the reason playing against players that you'll have better success with. It happens in lots of matches where they'll purposely on an angle keep people across from each other. So that dinking contest goes with those two people more than the opposite two people. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Now, what about lefty righty? That's a big part of it too, right?
Absolutely correct. And believe it or not, very often you'll have two forehands in the middle. And it depends on the person, depends on the game. It also depends on who you're playing against. And when you're going to these tournaments over and over, you start seeing the same people playing against the same people. You start learning their game. And it allows you as a partner. And the best part, I could tell you, having the same partner is key. And that's hard for someone that's not going to tournaments to find themselves a good partner to have. But you're right, Jeff. That's just part of your technical and tactical part of your skills when you understand the benefits of stacking. But it varies from game to game, tournament to tournament, player and player.
So do you see it more often? There was a question that came in about stacking. Ironically, do you see it more often on the serve because it's easier to pull off, or do you see it switching? Is it, do you have it that way? Because I know sometimes, one of the players, if they want to be on the right hand side, maybe they're a lefty, they'll actually stand to your right when you
Yes.
receive a serve, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then you'll slide over, and they'll just slide up to the net.
Correct. And for some people, they'll actually go up towards that side and wait over there and then just come into the court that way.
Sure.
So it depends, when you're working together as a team and you find out what works best, because some people like to see the whole court, when they're doing that, and it's easier for them and they can read the court a little bit better. But also, it just comes through, the proverbial term, more time in the saddle. The more time that you're in those situations and you get certain shots from certain people. And when you go to tournaments, and that's really one of the number one things we talk about in coaching to people that want to become a stronger player, you have to just go to places that you don't know people. Go to different parks. Go to a tournament. Forget about winning all the time. And yeah, of course, you and I were competitive. We want to get that medal. Any medal is a good medal. But the fact of in order to grow with your game, you have to be able to challenge yourself. And part of that is going to a place that you're uncomfortable. Finding games against people you've not seen their shots. There's a few people that have this crazy underhand. Look what's changing the whole game is the serve now.
Right.
And you'd watch most of the top pro players in the country, they're just getting the serve in every time. Nothing hot, nothing fancy, nothing spinning. And now it's all about winning games with your serve and acing people on your serve. It was unheard of years ago. So the game's changing. It's evolving every single day. I know that you, being as tall as you are, have such a huge advantage. But for a newer player that doesn't understand how to use their body yet, they don't even use it as an advantage. And make you move a little bit more. But, I'll pick out one person that I was spending some time with a few weeks ago from Israel. I'm having a senior moment. Dekel Bar.
Yes.
Dekel Bar's wingspan looks like it's 8 feet when he stretches out. How could you think about passing this person? It's not even his width. His anticipation of the shots when they're hit. He's already there waiting for the ball. And he also is one of the top 5 guys that jump in the air to do an Ernie.
Crazy.
Not just stand there and do the Ernie, but actually flying like a bird through the air. And if he's late, he can still reach it because of his length of his arm and his body. And you'll be doing that soon. Maybe not this week, maybe in a couple weeks, you'll be doing the same thing.
All right, so before we leave stacking, are there certain players, say for instance, the weaker player is serving to me.
Yes.
And my partner is up, she gives me the signal to stack, maybe with the person that's straight across that I would normally be returning to, maybe they're the stronger player and, they could hit a ball right down the line. So my partner might have trouble getting across. Does that come into the thought process at all? Because I know my partner, female partner, and I have talked about that a fair amount.
Sure it does. And often at times you'll have that person and they're going to give you the signal, they're going to switch. You might say no. And you know why you're saying no, because you're concerned that you're not going to be able to get over there quick enough for that person's return that's going to be really fast or down the line. Those type of things come into play. And that's just, again, more time in the saddle with that same partner, understanding why they're making that call. You'd know right away not to give me a signal based on that person that's on the side that have already passed you once before.
And usually what I've personally found is that, when I'm up, I don't have a problem, getting to the other side, even if I hang back a little bit and wait for a shot before I push over. But sometimes in the back, if you're, trying to come across and it's your backhand, right? So it would be normally your backhand you're coming across to cover because you want the forehand in the middle.
Right. Great
Might
question.
be a little more challenging.
What happens often, Jeff, and you're taller, I don't know, you're 6'4", 6'5", whatever you are. It is easy. It's 1 or 2 steps and you're almost to the other side. So what happens is the other person in the back, since you're going across, is now coming in at an angle to catch it. Don't always go straight up to the net. And when they start coming on, now they're covering that side. And that's things that you'll learn together. You may stop in the middle because as soon as that ball is hit, it's coming so wide, it doesn't make sense for you to go back, right? Because your partner's now going over there. So they might come across the court wider for that particular person that's returning that well. Those are things that you'll think about. And these are great drills, actually, to do with two other people in coaching sessions. You stop them and you just go through that example that you just gave. It's a great idea.
Awesome. I like that. Well, I had somebody, talking about tournament play and stacking and that sort of thing. I had someone say something to me. They
Wait,
played.
time out. You didn't ask the favorite question.
Well, I think we've heard that a little bit, but I guess we can bring people up to speed
Yeah.
on
My
your favorite question.
is, yes.
How did pickleball find you, Mike? Coach Mike?
Truth be told, I was living out west in Florida, kind of in the middle. I went to go visit somebody at a place in a very, very rural town. And when we got up in the morning, we were on our golf carts, and I saw these posts of what looked like sheets for a tennis match, the ladders. And I said, oh, there must be a tennis match. So when we came around, all I saw was these two tennis courts. They go, no, further in, keep going further in. I saw groups of people and tents and vendors, and I saw a huge pickle on the net. And so he goes, oh, go over to the pickleball courts. What? It's a pickle. What a crazy name, right? But you know as well as I do, Jeff, I looked at it and I said, wow, that's 1/3 the size of a tennis court. It can't be that hard. And then I watched, and then later that day, I said, can I borrow your paddle? And I tried it. And then like everybody else, we went and bought the least expensive paddles, didn't know anything about the balls. And I got yelled at for the first week from all these people. I was there for a weekend. You can't stand there. What are you doing over there? You're coming up too soon. That's the wrong thing. Over and over and over again. And it was challenging because I knew that I could play anything with a racket, but it was something that I enough to pursue it more. And believe it or not, 4 months later, they had a tournament there. And one of the guys from one of the paddleball companies was there. And I met these guys and we had a great conversation. And he said, listen, we don't have anybody in your area. Would you want to be sponsored? I'm like, yeah, of course. That sounds great. And there you go. You're getting shirts and paddles and balls. And I just was able to groove into it right away. But then you have to perform once you get that contract from the company. You have to do at least a minimum amount of tournaments and you have to show up. And I had a great time. It just kept going. 6 years ago, something like that. And then I earned my way up I moved from that city to a different city here in Vero Beach, Florida. And I was there just horsing around with everybody. Had not played a tournament yet. They all told me I need to meet this girl. This girl was in the U.S. Open for tennis, Wimbledon. I said, oh, okay. I didn't think much of it. And we met and we hit the ball around. We became mixed doubles partners. And I've had a great relationship. Claire Graver. I hope you're listening, Claire. I just gave you a good plug. Super athlete, super sweet lady. And we got along so well because we were both very relaxed. She was a little bit more hyper than me, and I was mellow Mike. So together we had good times. We played. We won lots of medals. We won at the U.S. Open. And most of it went into the senior division because we both started when we were over 50. And that's the thing with pickleball. You can be 8, you can be 82 and still have a great time with the sport.
That's fantastic.
Okay, now you can get into your first question.
Well, you talked about, you come from a coaching background. How soon after you picked this sport up did you say, hey, I want to be a coach?
It was very short time. Actually, I find myself, once I was a sponsored player and I had paddles and they saw I had an outfit that matched them, I was able to, in a nice way, help people with their game while I was playing. And they asked me, could you give me a lesson? Could you help me with the game? And it just rolled right in like that. And there was more of it. And then when I was able to make schedules where I lived, it got busier. And then I went to a park, and then the park had other people that were teaching. And most people that want to be able to enjoy the game more get help in any sport. When you have a competitive spirit and you want to be a little bit stronger, you'll ask questions about where are the stronger players playing? Can you play in a tournament? And you start challenging yourself. And for me, I taught my first little league when I was 20. I started coaching Little League baseball. I think it was 19 or 20. So I went from baseball to soccer to lots of competitive years of racquetball, a little bit of martial arts.
Wow.
But I was Coach Mike since I was in my 20s. My kids would go away to camps in the summertime, and I'd be Coach Mike. I'd be responsible for all the sporting activities that were going on at the camp. It was great. I had a blast with it, and I still am. Almost 40 years later, I'm still coaching.
Wow.
You know, it's funny because we had this conversation the other day. Some people just do the same thing over and over and over, and they have 20 years of experience. Some people get a little bit stronger, challenge themselves more, go to another level, and become a little bit more seasoned in their whatever they're doing. But some people tend to do the same thing over and over and over and over. And the thing with pickleball, you cannot stay the same. There's just too many people coming in right away at a higher level. I mean, you see it right away. You know?
Well, that was like the question that I asked Scott last week about, hey, you play a lot of these guys week in and week out on the senior pro level. What do you do to mix up your game? And obviously, from a coaching standpoint, you've got to keep up with what's going on. The chainsaw serve you talked about, some of the other things. There's always changes, and
yeah, and there's hundreds of ways to teach someone the same thing. And your style is a little bit different than my style. My style is different than someone else's. And at the end of the day, when I meet people for the first time and they go, well, I've had coaching sessions before, and that's wonderful and that's great. I would always suggest to them, take as many coaching sessions as you can from different people. And when you decide you found that person that you learn the most from, that you can, and you feel you're growing with the most, then stick with one person. But to take lessons from 3-4 different people all the time doesn't make a lot of sense because we all teach in a different way.
That's great advice.
Now, on the other hand, there are people that say, well, I like to come to you for this part of my game. And I like to go to Jeff because Jeff is really great at this part. So I teach that from Jeff. And again, there's no right or wrong way. My suggestions would be stick with the person that you're getting the most success from.
Awesome. Well, let me dig back into this question that I
Sure.
started with, Coach. There was a tournament not too long ago, and I think sometimes in Florida this time of year, you don't get the numbers that you would in the season if November through April.
The heat.
So they combined, the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60-year-olds. And this person said to me that, we were playing against 30-year-olds. What would you tell somebody who's 60, who's competing in a tournament against, younger players, probably younger legs? And
I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I'm that guy at 62 that goes to local tournaments, and I'm always playing somebody's in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. My first tournament, I went with someone locally here in South Florida to Pictona. It's Daytona. It's called Holly Hill is the city where it's in. And I finally was able to play my age. And it just felt more fair. I don't know. The younger kids are faster. They see the ball. They're quicker. They can last longer. And they know that. We hope that we have to depend on the more that you're in the game, the more seasoned you become. Example, I was watching the Olympics, and this young 18-year-old boy was beating this seasoned player. I think he's a German guy, and this young boy might have been American, let's just say. And he won the first match. But then the more seasoned player started to learn this young boy's game. And at the end, the more seasoned player had won. But this young boy has a great future. It was his first tournament in the Olympics. He did really well.
What sport, Coach?
That was ping pong.
Wow.
Very relatable to And what do we watch after that? We watched some badminton, ping pong, very relatable to the sport of pickleball. I had just gone a week ago, Jeff, to watch some friends in a racquetball tournament. Haven't been around racquetball 25 years.
Wow.
And I go there and I start recognizing guys. Oh my gosh, I know this guy. I can't remember his name. And I went to go visit a friend who's been the world 5 years in a row, Sudsy Munchkin. And anybody listening for racquetball knew Sudsy. There's a gentleman in racquetball, Ruben Gonzalez now, and he's probably in his 70s. He was the top racquetball player for years. And those guys playing racquetball said, Michael, don't come here and talk about that slow game of pickleball. Because they've never played it on a higher level. They watch it and they see how slow and they see the dinking. They don't understand the speed that you have to have with your hands. Granted, racquetball moves much faster. And I was over there just to support a friend of mine. They played in the tournament. He came in second place. He did really well. But it's great to see that there's some guys, they're in their 70s and they're still playing. They're still healthy. They can play the sport.
That's great. So, what do you think about that? You hope that your skill can outpace the young kids.
Give you an example. They take the smaller brackets because you don't get enough of the, let's say, more mature ages like mine, 50s plus, 60s plus, 70s plus. So then combine them all together. So what happens? The guys in their 70s are playing guys in their 40s, and they don't think it's fair. But this now going into the local tournaments, it's about to happen. It's going to happen. Get ready for it. You're going to have to be able to withstand it. And that goes back to being prepared. What'd you do the day before? What'd you eat the day before? Are you drinking the day before to be prepared for possibly taking a beating from a young kid? They're just hitting the ball faster, harder. And we just hope that you're right. Our experience with playing the game more often and seeing the shots a little bit before allow us to be maybe more tactical and more technical with our game and not beat them with their speed. And they're going to very likely want to rip every shot. And then we're going to be able to have an opportunity to slow the game down. There's not much you can do. It's going to happen. It happens all over the place. You go to local tournaments, same thing happens to you.
Sure.
You find yourself playing the younger kids.
Well, you make a nice segue into talking about, staying hydrated and that sort of thing. And I found myself in a bad place. I was in Orlando at a conference and my schedule was kind of thrown off, so I didn't get the water I needed. So I played yesterday and today, and I was not in good shape. I didn't hold up as well, and I thought back. I said, you know what? I wasn't drinking the water.
So true, Jeff. It doesn't take much to fall off the wagon.
So what advice do you give? I can see some Northerners playing in some of these tournaments. I know we were in Atlanta a month and a half ago, and a lot of the people that were from away felt like, it was brutally hot. I didn't mind it because, we play in South Florida, but, I saw a year or so ago in the Texas Open, a number of people just collapsed because it was so hot. So, what advice would you give to somebody who is, having to play in the South or, traveling to a tournament down here? I know there's one coming up in September in Orlando and Atlanta.
Okay. Here's a good example. Come in a day early and get used to it. Be smart about it and hydrate a day or two before. Now, nutrition for everyone's different, but, bring lots of snacks, healthy snacks, maybe more protein bars, something that you can help yourself with, the bananas, anything in that family. Mirchin knows all about the bananas. That's my banana man.
So someone said to me yesterday, they should have said, oh, well, you should, if you don't eat before, you should have a watermelon or a melon or something like that to get in your system. What do you think about that advice?
Listen, it's different for everybody. Your metabolism is different than mine. There might be different foods that you respond to better than it would for me. But I need something with some protein to hold me through, and always find the shade. Don't sit around too long. I'm thinking in my age group, the younger kids, they just bounce right back. But I find myself not sitting around long because there's times in between matches. You know that. It shouldn't be
Absolutely.
3 hours, but there's always time in between. And you want to keep moving and keep your body warm. If you know your match is coming up and you go watch the people that you're hopefully playing next, go out there, get a parking lot, hit the ball, move, walk around, jog around the park, do something. Keep your body warm. That's my suggestion. And the other side of that, Jeff, when people go away to the mountains or you're going to California for a tournament, you're Arizona, and the air is much thinner, and you think, oh, I'm not even thirsty. Don't be fooled. You know this. We talked about this in a few shows ago with somebody. It happened to them. They said it was so cool and the air was so thin. I didn't feel like I needed a drink. He walked over to get a drink and passed out. He hadn't been drinking that day. It can happen in either way. So don't, even the cooler weather, you have to keep hydrated. Your body still needs it, desires it.
That's good stuff. I love
Yeah.
sage advice from the coach. All right, Coach, what is your favorite moment on the pickleball court? I know there are probably a lot. You probably gain a lot of satisfaction teaching people from day to day.
You know
and
what? I
seeing
really,
them
really do.
progress.
I still want to play tournaments. I still want to go out there. Of course, I'd like to win medals, just for the simple fact because we give our medals away. We go to a place here close to where I live, and it's for special needs people, not kids, because the kids grow up to be adults. And when you bring a box of those medals in there, you think you just gave them millions of dollars. So if people are listening and you're thinking, well, what am I going to do with this box of medals I have? I can only have them hanging around for so long. Find a place like that and just give it away. What a joy. What a feeling. It feels great. The tournaments, I'll probably try to play more tournaments this year. With COVID, it appears that it's slowing down, depending who you talk to. We have a battalion chief that lives here where we live, and 4 of his best men passed away in the last couple of weeks from COVID. So don't think it's gone. And there's still, statistically, it says that half the Americans haven't gotten shots yet. It's crazy for me to think about that, but it's true. And you're seeing that more venues are not letting you in unless you can prove that you have had your shots. So it's something to think about. I'm not promoting it. I don't know what's in the shot that they gave me. But the truth is, I think in a lot of these destinations that I had friends that were flying to a destination, they didn't have it with them and they didn't let them fly. So, yeah, I know that for me personally, I probably had one of my best times was at the U.S. Open, winning medals for the first time when you're playing. Probably the meeting places when you walk up and you see guys that are the top in the country and you think they're not going to talk to me, and they look at you and say, hey, we need someone for rec play, and they pull you out there, and at the first moment you're like, I'm at center court playing with Scott Moore. This is not happening. And one of the nicest guys you could meet in the street anywhere. So there's so many different events that I've gone to, that the camaraderie of the people, the social aspect of the sport is like no other sport I've ever been into. What was one? I tell you, one of the nicest times was when I was in Tournament of Champions, and I met all these people that I just heard about that were very welcoming and inviting me. And we had who do we have? Wes Gabrielson we had on the show, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I didn't know any of those. Listen, I'm an old guy. I'm 25, 30 years older than most of these guys. And they said, come on, Mike, jump in the car with us. Let's go. I didn't know these guys. And they were nice to me. They're nice and they say, oh, you played great. But you know the difference between their level and they take it easy on you. But they don't have to. And they're going in tournaments and they're first, second, third place all the time. And it was just very exciting to be able to do those kind of things. And it happens more and more. Eva Welsher was on 2 years ago. No one ever heard of Eva Welsher. Who is she? And now she's in tournaments, winning medals all the time with Scott. So it's changing people's lives every day. I know it did for you too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You were concerned. Now what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to golf or I'm going to play pickleball. Right? Pretty much.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So, Coach, right now the Olympics are on.
Yes.
When is pickleball going to be an Olympic sport? I haven't seen them playing it yet in the Olympics.
There's so many things that have to take place before they even get considered for the Olympics. Has to be in a certain amount. There's a whole list. I mean, you can look it up of what has to actually happen before they consider it. And there's lots of people that have talked about it. And I know there's a lot of pros that are going to other countries to play in tournaments. So I think that it's a very good possibility.
I see there's one coming up in the Czech Republic in a couple of
Czech
months.
Republic, yes, that's correct.
There's a lot of, we talked about this earlier today, a lot of destinations where the Moors actually, I think Daniel Scott's son does some trips to
Not some, a lot.
yeah, Thailand
Different
and
places
some other
in
places.
the world, correct, yeah. And
So
then you start thinking about the business itself. It's growing so quickly, bigger and bigger and bigger. And then some of the people are wondering, okay, which part of the business do I want to be in? Do I want to just play and just be a pro? Do I want to coach? Do I want to have apparel? Do I want to do the boot camps? There's so many different aspects of the sport. There's 3 new pickleball paddle companies coming out. There's 2 more balls. There's going to be so many different balls to choose from and paddles to choose from. And then who's going to one-up the other paddle company to the point where someone's going to have something maybe not so legal because there's more spinning involved. So who's going to have more texture on their paddles so you can grab the ball better? There's so many different things going on. I'm not even in the loop, Jeff. I'm really not even in the loop.
So they don't call you before they make paddle changes, Coach.
Not this coach.
Come on.
I do have 2 people that I can't announce are sending me paddles to try. That someone who knew somebody and said, hey, let Mike try it out. So they're on their way. And that's fun. It's nice to be trying things out for people. Actually, we have a mutual friend in the sneaker business.
Yep.
And he started making a sneaker and he went to a lot of different people, say, what do you think? And in the beginning, it wasn't so. It's a much better product now.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. We're going to have him on the show soon, I hope.
Yes. So there was a question that came in about, and this is something that I hear all the time. Partners say this, I say this. You're dinking, and you just want to attack. And it seems like 60% of the time they're like, "Oh, I should have waited one more." So what do you think about that, Coach?
I'm going to tell you that I use the same line all the time. This young kid that I didn't know was on the same side with me. It was trying to think where we were. I think we were in Davie, Florida, and a whole bunch of people were called over from the West Coast to play against the East Coast. It was a fun time. And this young kid, I'll tell you, this young kid is after, said to me, he goes, Mike, just wait for a better setup. Because I was pulling the trigger too quick. I was new. I was young in the sport. He said, just wait for a better setup. And that patience I now have much more of. And I wait for a better setup. I actually wait. This young kid disguises his shots. I think he's still one of the trickiest, smartest players. And Kyle Yates, who we're both good friends with, said that to me years ago. Mike, just wait for a better shot. Wait for a better shot. So patience. And you were talking about sometimes dink, dink, dink. Who's going to pull the trigger first? And there's specific times that when you can read the speed of the ball and the velocity of the ball, that bounce will be a little bit higher for you to go ahead and take that shot that you're talking about, Jeff. And a lot of people just wait too long and it drops a little bit below the net and they think they can still slam the ball, and most of them go either in the net or out. And all this comes through time and doing these drills that you were talking about over and over and over. I mean, if you're unable to dink back and forth 50 times, you need to get there. Not missing, not hitting the net. Hitting the net's a big no-no. You're 3 inches too low.
So, Coach, you learned from somebody in their early 20s, huh? Is that true?
Gosh. Of course. Kyle's a sick athlete. He could play any sport. Did you know he's a very, very good golfer as well?
Yeah, I don't think we got into that too much.
Yeah. Both of his parents are pro golfers.
Wow.
Or at least can play at the pro level. Maybe scratch handicap. There's so much more than what you see at eye level with a lot of the pros that do so many different things. Who did I just see on a commercial? And she said next year she's going to go full force into pickleball. Not Martina.
Was it Irina?
Irina was just making a comment.
Yeah, Irina.
Irina says, I'm at about 50%. Maybe next year, the year after, I'm going to play full-time pickleball. And she's going to retire and do 30 tournaments a year. Let me tell you, she will.
Absolutely.
Very committed, crazy, crazy athlete, and so fun, funny, nice gal. And a lot of times people just see them for face value. You see them on TV. How they play as when they're on that competitive set. People are very different when they're in that zone. They are off the court, and they're a completely different person.
All right, Coach, I think it's time to see another video
Oh, good. I like video.
from the U.S. Open.
Okay, here we go. Who could it be?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
Oh, no. Mills. Oh, no. Another bad return mid-court. Oh, no. I got Dave down the line. Look at that. See?
Had to hit that with
Little
a
squirrel
backhand.
got a nut.
Oh.
That's a great one. Dave looked at it and said, oh, gosh, I got to give it to you. Dang it. My partner was much taller than me. Jeff, what are you, 6'4"?
Yes.
I think he's 6'3", 6'4". You
Well,
met
Chad,
Mike.
yes. Yep. Great guy. Well, Chad just brought up a great point. He said, you want to wait for that ball. A lot of people don't know what that is. What is that called, what you just did?
Oh, you mean when I went around the ATP? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. What does ATP stand
So
for?
for people that don't know, you're going around the post. And it goes back inside, but it has to land on the court, obviously. And Dave Weinbach gave me the shot because he, at the point in time that I was hitting it, thought, he's not going to make that shot. I'll just watch it. Because those guys are so good, they go outside the court and they steal that ATP from you and they pop it back. Dave was nice enough to give it to me. I thanked him after, by the way.
Well, Coach, it's funny. When I first started playing, I started, 2.5 years ago in January.
Mm-hmm.
I played here for a couple months. I think I was playing mostly on the 3-0 courts. I went home. The weather was home at that point was Maine. The weather was absolutely miserable, so we were playing inside a gym.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I was playing, and this guy hit the ball like he was 3 feet off the court, and he hit it onto the court. He's like, oh yeah, ATP. I'm like, what is that?
Exactly.
That doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
I had no idea.
It just happened recently. We had some guests over where we live in Verano, and somebody had did that shot. They go, okay, our point. And the person looked at it and goes, are you crazy? I just got an ATP on you. They just, where they live in their development, no one knows what an Ernie is. No one knows what an ATP is. They don't do stacking. And you know what? It's perfectly fine. They don't know what a third shot drop is, and they're having fun. And in many places, that's perfectly fine because they don't care about tournaments. They just want to have a good time. They get out there, they play 1 or 2 games, they rest for an hour, they chit chat, they go back out. They've played their 4 games and they are perfectly fine. And they might take some coaching sessions once in a while. Shot drop or an Ernie or an ATP, they're not interested. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're still going to have a great life, have a great time, and have fun. And they're moving and they're being social. And there's nothing but good things happening for that reason. But you're right, Jeff. When you first started at 3-0, if you went out to those courts right now and played with those players, what would you do different?
Yeah, I'd try to slow the game down.
You would slow it down because what are they doing?
They're ripping it.
They're ripping it just like you did, just like I did, just like everybody does in the beginning because it's a little wiffle ball. How
Right.
can you not want to crush that ball when it's, this little birdie flying up in the air like, oh, God, I want to swat it. And then you look at yourself, how did I just hit the net? Oh my gosh, it's so close. Right?
Absolutely.
And you especially should never be hitting the net because your hand could reach over that long arm of the law that you have. And you're learning how to use it more. You're using your body more. I'm sure you are.
I am. Let's look at one more clip here.
Oh, good.
See if you know who this guy is.
I sure hope so. My memory's not so good.
All right, let's make full screen here.
Oh, yeah. We're still out there on the net. Nice, good, deep return.
Oh!
Look at that. What happened?
It looked like...
Looked like I
a-
swung, missed it, got it, hit it over the net.
And then you hit the speaker, Mike.
And it hit the speaker up in the air. What are the odds? I don't think that's ever happened. Then he hit an out serve. Wow, that was, see, those things you just don't want to remember, Jeff. I didn't remember that one.
Well, it's funny. You see that happen from time to time, and even senior pro coach Mike does that. Swings
Oh
and
yeah.
misses.
Senior pro coach Mike makes plenty of U's. And if you don't know what a UE is, ask somebody else. I'm not going to even tell you.
That was awesome. Well, look,
Any
I
more
think
que-
I think we've exhausted most of the questions for for tonight. It was a great Q&A. I think there were some really good questions that came in, and I certainly appreciate having you on. As a matter of fact, I see a new logo behind you. What do you have
Well,
behind you?
Paddle Up Pickleball. Obviously, my company is Paddle Up Pickleball because I always coach keep your paddle up and in front, right about here. Paddle up. Why? Because I feel it's much more effective of an offensive player. If a ball's coming at me fast, Jeff, I just have to go like this, as opposed to down here and coming up. And you did that a lot when we first met.
And I
You
still
didn't
do.
realize the benefit of having it out in front of you. I wanted to mention that I just saw something recently that there's a National Pickleball Day now. August
Really?
8th is National Pickleball Day. Did you know that?
I didn't. I think I saw it last year, but I didn't know what day it was this year.
August 8th, National Pickleball Day. Write that down. Mark it
Very
in your
cool.
calendar. I'm sure something wonderful is going to happen.
I think the 7th, I'm going to be over on your side of the coast
I
playing
sure hope you let me know in advance.
Plantation a week
Oh,
from
there's a tournament.
Saturday.
Okay, okay.
I think it's a fundraiser over there.
Do you happen to know who's running it?
I can find out.
Okay, okay. Well, maybe I'll join you there.
Hey, that'd be awesome.
I just have to
Well,
find a mixed doubles partner and a men's doubles.
oh, I'm sure you can do it.
But
You
it's
can
not that far from me, Jeff. I'm going to try to work it out. I'd like to see you again.
you can have auditions over there, Coach,
I
and see
doubt it.
who gets to play with Coach Mike. Maybe have a lottery or something.
I'm going to find out about it. If it is a fundraiser, I'll be a part of it. I like that. I like helping down there. I know a lot of the folks down there. I'm from that part of the state, so I know a lot of those folks.
Well,
Jeff,
Coach,
you're
always a
playing
pleasure,
with
Coach.
Maria,
Yes.
and you have you're going for mixed only?
Yeah, I head to the Northeast on Monday, so I'm only playing on Saturday.
I see. Okay. Jeff, you've been great. I really appreciate your time, setting all this up.
Hey,
I
it's
always learn
always a
from you.
pleasure. I love hearing your sage advice, Coach.
Stay safe, be healthy. God bless everybody. Have a
All
good
right.
night.
Catch you next week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye,
And
Jeff. Thank
Paddle
you.
Up Pickleball information is
Paddle up.
right
Oh,
on
you
the.
popping it up on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
There it is. Thank you
Thanks for
very much,
tuning in.
Jeff. Good night.